Hello everyone, my name is Noah, and welcome to another Art and Chat video in the Stet Studio. Today I'm going to be sharing the process of painting my Moss Babe piece. While I do that, I'm going to be talking about what I'm doing differently with my business this year, and how it's going so far, being 7 weeks into the year. Before we get into the discussion topic for this video, I want to share what tools I am using to make this piece. I'm using Arch's cold press watercolor paper, my favorite Da Vinci watercolor palette, and for the inking I use the Odo graphic liners that I always use. One final note, if you would like to purchase a print of this piece, it is the first installment in my snail mail club. If you join, you'll receive a postcard in the mail with exclusive, never-before-released art. It is a fun little way to receive some happiness in your mailbox every month. No matter when you see this video, you can sign up using the link in the video description, but this design will only be available until midnight Eastern Standard Time, March 1st, 2023. Now, finally, into what I have been up to this year. I decided that this year, rather than just making a list of goals or things that I want to do this year, I was going to create some sort of structure to ensure that I actually got them done. Last year, I didn't get much accomplished. That's not to say that I didn't work hard. I definitely did. But I was kind of just flailing around doing whatever came to mind without much of a plan or idea of what I wanted to work towards overall. This does not a sustainable, supportive business make. I wanted to be more productive, but I still wanted to be gentle on myself and keep from falling into the trap that is hustle culture. After some thought, I came to the decision that I needed to make my workday more efficient rather than extending it, or taking on more random projects that came to mind on a whim. This is where I started with thinking about what I wanted my coming year to look like. I took the time to think about how I work naturally, and what seems to make me struggle and what I excel in doing. I also took into mind my planning preferences. I love to-do lists in my bullet journal, for example. I tried to come up with a plan that would play to my strengths and avoid my weaknesses. So, with all of that in mind, I decided my only resolution, as it were, was that I wanted to make Stet Studio more sustainable. I came up with a list of ways that I could do that. The main theme for these ideas is creating consistent income streams. I came up with the idea of big projects that I would complete every month. The idea being that I would list out long-term ideas that I had and wanted to do and list out all of the steps and focused a majority of my energy on them, completing one each month. I realized that I wasn't finishing many of my projects because I kept starting new ones. This was what started the big project format that I'll be talking about in this video. I needed something that would give me focus, but wouldn't collapse when I inevitably got distracted and wandered off. I needed a home base, and the big projects were meant to be that home base. The first big idea I tackled in January was titled, Get My Skillshare Up and Running Again. I used to have several Skillshare classes available on their website, but they no longer met the quality requirements, which is fair, given my skills when I recorded them. I never made a ton of money off of them, but it was a nice piece of monthly passive income, not to mention that I loved making that type of video, as well as teaching others in general. In order to improve the video and audio quality of these new lessons, I decided I was going to turn the alcove in our spare room into a sort of recording studio. I did record that whole process and will be sharing it with all of y'all sometime soon, but suffice it to say, it was a bit of a project. I had to paint the walls, which were neon bright pink, and create sound buffers to reduce the echo. I plan to completely redo this alcove, plan out the first class, which includes writing a script, blocking out how I wanted to film it, and the order that I wanted to film the sections. And then film and edit it, all in 1 month. Now, maybe I could have done this in 1 month if I didn't do anything else at all, but I'm not convinced. At any rate, I still had to do things like design Valentine's cards, plan and post to social media, make my regular YouTube videos, talk with clients, and help them make decisions in regards to commissions, all of that business stuff that's the back end. I also kept getting distracted with working on my postcard club, which really should have been set aside as February's big project. So it's not surprising at all in hindsight that I didn't complete all of that. I managed to completely redo the entire alcove, and I love it so much, but it was a lot of work. And I started the script for the first course, which I'm going to be remaking, which is creating meaning with the cards of the major arcana, which is nothing to sneeze at, but it's not complete. This is one of the weaknesses I mentioned wanting to avoid. I have a hard time accurately gauging the amount of time it takes for me to complete a project. Irony of ironies, I did the same thing with writing and recording the script. I do think that as I complete more projects, I will hopefully get a better overall idea of how long they tend to take. This led into another of my weaknesses. When things don't turn out perfectly, I tend to freeze up. I suppose this is perfectionism. Either way, this caused me to stumble. One of my main struggles with being in charge of my own business is that sometimes I struggle to pivot. I should have just assigned the Skillshare course planning and filming to February's big project and kept going, but I didn't, and I haven't made much progress on it this month. I don't have this problem when working with other people. For example, if I'm invited into a market last minute, or someone wants changes to their commissioned piece, I can pivot and adapt no problem, but when it's just me and no one else, it's harder. So now I'm going to keep working on it through the rest of the month and into March if need be, although I really do think I can finish it up by the end of the month if I'm efficient. Then I'll choose another big project for March. I don't want to give up on this big idea plan for the year because I'm stumbling a bit right now. While I was using it and it was working as intended, it was great. I listed out every single little step in order in my bullet journal, and it really did help me know what I needed to focus majority of my energy on. I also appreciated the visual indicator of how far through the process I was, as well as how much work I had left to do. And yes, I did get distracted by other projects and ideas, but it helped me to have something to come back to once I noticed I was distracted. This big project format really did act as my home base, just as I hoped it would. It really did support me in giving me something to do when I wasn't otherwise immediately busy with a short-term task. That indecision is also a time when I tend to freeze up, and thankfully, this all but eliminated that. In the future, I think I will probably give myself deadlines I hope I can reach, but I am not going to confine myself to a calendar month to finish each one. Some of these projects are undoubtedly going to take me longer than a month to complete, and I don't want to set myself up for failure because I am trying to fit them into an arbitrary deadline. I want to make sure in the future that I continue to pick projects that will help me further my overall goal of making my business more sustainable. So, I am going to be mindful in my choosing of tasks that I assign to the Big Project program. Some of the other projects I want to work on this year are so big, like making an art book out of my house portraits, finally, that they themselves will have to be broken down into multiple big projects. Continuing with the art book example, I would need to break up finishing the paintings, formatting the book, creating a pre-order or Kickstarter, and all that entails, as well as ordering and shipping the books. Another aspect to consider is that I want to make sure that I am planning tasks out within each big idea, and just in general, that are actually things that I am in control of. For example, I don't want to simply say, I want to get more house commissions to include in my book. I would create a plan that includes these goals. Hand out 10 house portrait flyers at each market I attend. Paint 4 houses, commission or otherwise, each month. Go on one outing to scout new houses for reference once a month. And post about my availability of house portrait commissions once a week. These are all actions I have control over. This is important in any goal setting and planning, since it can be very disheartening to want to work towards a goal, but ultimately not meet it because something isn't in our control. This is something I learned while querying my previous manuscripts. The example that was given to me was, you can't control if an agent wants to sign you, but you can control how many times you send out queries. The idea being that the more times you send out queries, the more likely it is that an agent will want to sign with you. At the end of the day, I cannot control what another person does, only what I can do. Another important aspect of planning, for me at least, is creating deadlines. If I give myself a deadline, I'll work to meet it. If not, I won't. I have to be careful though and not make my deadlines unachievable, like I mentioned before. Because if I do that, it will be just as discouraging as if I didn't have any control over what I was trying to accomplish in the first place. So, overall, it's been a mixed bag of successes and failures so far this year, but I think I've got something good here, and I am excited to keep trying and refining my process as the year goes on. I can already see how helpful this will be. I have a spread in my bullet journal specifically dedicated to brainstorming for my business. So I think in order to pick my future big projects, I will make a list of potential ideas as well as notes on how these ideas, if implemented, would help me work towards my overall goal. Then I can choose from these ideas and start breaking them down into smaller tasks that I can complete more quickly and start working towards completing them. Another new idea I have been implementing, which you will have heard about if you have been watching my monthly bullet journal setup videos, is weekly and monthly reflections. This has been a great way for me to check and see if I have been working on the month's big project and towards my goal, and if not, what have I been doing instead? It is technically its own thing, but since it has been helping me to be aware of how I'm spending my time, I thought it was worth mentioning here. What I do is, every Sunday or Monday, I'll look back at the previous week and write a sentence or two about how that week went and how I feel about it. Then, at the end of the month, I will think about what I remember of the month, and then read my notes to see how they compare. What are my overall impressions of the month, and how do they compare to the notes that I made during the month itself? At least, that's how I used it in January, and so far in February. It's another new-to-me tool, but I am really enjoying it, and it has helped me to be kinder to myself, as it makes it easier to remember all of the work that I do, even if it isn't exciting or glamorous. I do think I did a pretty decent job of playing to my strengths and working to create supports that would make my weaknesses less prevalent. Since we have a little extra time here at the end, I would like to chat about the artwork a little. I wanted this piece to overall just exude cozy vibes. She's a little forest sprite, or maybe a gnome, and she has her cup of tea, the cup being made out of an acorn leaf. The scale is a little all over the place, but I don't mind. She has the coziest, chunkiest sweater ever, which I really enjoyed adding the texture to. Then there's the corduroy skirt as well, with lots of texture. One little detail that I need to point out, just in case you missed it, is her moss beret with a dandelion sticking out of it as a sort of pom-pom. She's meant to be an ode to rest, a celebration of taking care of our bodies and knowing that we have limits. The finished postcard itself says, "No more boss babe, moss babe," and I think that sums up what I was going for with this piece. This was my first time adding an undercolor wash to the tint of the skin This was my first time adding an undercolor wash to tint the skin tone of the character. I don't paint many people, so I don't have lots of chances to try techniques like this, but I do love how it looks. I wanted her to look like she was maybe made out of the moss itself, or like a moss fairy, perhaps. As always, I have linked in the description of this video the Pinterest board where I gathered my reference photos and inspiration, if you'd like to take a look. There's lots of cute cottagecore outfits pinned in this board. Don't forget, if you would like to receive a postcard with this design on it, be sure to sign up using the link in the description before March 1st, 2023. If it's after that date, you can still join the club to receive other postcards with my art on it too. What do you think? Would you ever try picking one big project at a time in your business or for your personal life? I bet it would work pretty well for craft projects, especially ones like sewing a quilt or building something like a dollhouse. Let me know what you think of my system down below, or if you have any tips or thoughts. I'd love to hear them. What are you working on right now that you're excited about? Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to like, subscribe, ring that bell, all that silliness. Thank you for spending a little time with me in the Stet Studio today. Bye!